When Richard Sterling came home 3 days earlier than planned, he heard something that froze him in the doorway of the kitchen. It was the voice of his daughter, Lily. But she wasn't laughing. She was begging. What he saw when he opened that door would change everything forever. If you've ever seen a child suffer and done nothing, this story will force you to question every choice you've ever made. Richard Sterling wasn't a bad father. At least, that's what he believed. At 42 years old, he'd built a tech empire from the ground up. His company was worth millions. He worked 14 hours a day. He traveled 3 weeks out of every month. And in his mind, all that sacrifice was for Lily, his little girl of 8 years old, his only daughter. But the truth Richard couldn't see was much simpler and more devastating. You can give your daughter the entire world, but if you aren't there to protect her from the monster living in your own house, all that money is worth absolutely nothing. 2 years ago, Richard and Lily's world had collapsed. His wife, her mother Emily, died in a car crash. It was sudden, brutal. A semi-truck lost control on the highway. Emily didn't stand a chance. Lily was 6 years old when they buried her mother. For an entire year, the house was consumed by silence. Richard didn't know how to process the grief. He worked even more, as if executive meetings could fill the void that Emily had. Left behind, Lily, on the other hand, stopped smiling, stopped playing. She spent hours in the room that had been her mother's, hugging the pillow that still held her perfume. But children are resilient. Slowly, Lily began to heal. She started drawing again, started laughing again at school, and although she missed her mom every second of every day, she was learning to live with that grief. Then, Richard met Brenda. It was at a business conference. Brenda Harding was 35 years old, beautiful, elegant, and knew exactly what to say. She told Richard that she understood his pain, that she too had lost someone, that she knew how difficult it was to raise a little girl alone. It was all a lie, but Richard was desperate. Desperate to feel alive again, desperate to believe that he could rebuild a family for Lily. 6 months after meeting her, Richard and Brenda got married. The wedding was small, intimate. Lily was there, wearing a white dress that Brenda had chosen. In the photos, Brenda smiled, hugging the little girl. She seemed like the perfect stepmother, loving, attentive, seemed The first 3 months were almost normal. Brenda cooked, took Lily to school, helped her with her homework. Richard thought he'd made the right decision, that Lily finally had a mother figure again. But everything changed the day Richard had to travel to Europe for 2 whole weeks. That night, after the chauffeur took Richard to the airport, Brenda closed the door of the estate and looked at Lily with an expression the little girl had never seen before. Cold, calculating. And she said something that Lily would never forget. "Showtime's over, kid. Now you're going to learn how things really work around here." At first, it was small tasks. Brenda asked Lily to clear her plate after dinner, to tidy her room, normal things for an 8-year-old. But then, the tasks multiplied. Washing all the dinner dishes, sweeping. The kitchen, cleaning the bathroom, folding laundry. Lily did it without complaining. She thought that if she was obedient, if she was helpful, Brenda would be kind again. She thought that maybe, just maybe, her father would be proud of her. But Brenda wasn't looking for obedience. She was looking for absolute control. When Richard returned from Europe, Lily ran to hug him. She wanted to tell him everything. She wanted to tell him that Brenda had made her work until 11. O'clock at night, that her hands hurt, that she missed her mom more than ever. But before she could say a word, Brenda appeared with that perfect smile and said, "Honey, Lily has been such a huge help around the house. She's learning responsibility, aren't you, sweetheart?" And she looked at Lily with those eyes that clearly said, "If you say anything, it'll be worse." Lily nodded, smiled, lied. Richard kissed her forehead and said how proud he was of her. And so, the cycle began. Every time Richard travelled, Lily's hell got worse. The chores became endless. Brenda fired the housekeeper who cleaned the house, telling Richard that she wanted to handle things more personally. The truth was, she didn't want any witnesses. Now, Lily cleaned the entire estate, alone. She woke up at 5 in the morning to prepare Brenda's breakfast, cleaned the kitchen, mopped the marble floors, scrubbed the bathrooms, and after doing all that, Brenda took her to school. Class. Lily could barely keep her eyes open. Her teachers noticed that she was distracted, tired, but when they asked if everything was all right at home, Lily said yes. Because Brenda was always waiting outside with that icy smile that meant, "Don't say anything, or your father will never believe you." And Lily believed her. 6 months passed like this. 6 months of silent slavery in a luxury estate. Lily's hands, which had once been soft and small, were now rough, full of calluses, with little cuts from scrubbing dishes and cleaning floors. One day, Richard saw her washing her hands in the bathroom and noticed the injuries. "What happened here, sweetheart?" he asked, worried. Lily opened her mouth to tell the truth. But Brenda appeared in the doorway, smiling. "Oh, honey, Lily's been helping me in the yard. She loves planting flowers. Right, Lily?" Lily looked down, nodded. Richard smiled. "That's beautiful, honey. Your mum would have been proud." And he left. Brenda waited until Richard left the room. Then she leaned in close to Lily and whispered, "If you ever tell the truth, I'll make sure your father thinks you're a liar, and I'll send you to a boarding school where you'll never see him again." Lily clenched her teeth to keep from crying. That night, while cleaning the kitchen after dinner, Lily wondered if her father would ever notice what was happening, if he would ever look beyond the fake smiles and see that his daughter was slowly disappearing before his very eyes. But Richard was blind, blinded by work, blinded by Brenda, blinded by his own guilt for not being there after Emily's death. And while he worked 14 hours a day to give Brenda a life of luxury, she was stealing his daughter's childhood. The following weeks were even worse. Much worse. Brenda started waking Lily up at 4:30 in the morning. It was still dark outside. The house was cold, and Lily, with her eyes puffy from exhaustion, had to get up and start working. First, she prepared Brenda's coffee, exactly how she liked it, with 2 heaping teaspoons of sugar, scalded milk in the white porcelain cup. If it was too hot, Brenda made her do it again. If it was too cold, same thing. Then she cleaned the entire kitchen. The white marble floor had to shine, without a single smudge, not a single speck of dust. Lily scrubbed on her knees with a stiff bristled brush that tore up the palms of her hands. After that, she did the laundry by hand, because according to Brenda, the washing machine didn't get things clean enough. Lily scrubbed shirts, sheets, towels, until her knuckles bled and the water in the bucket turned red. And when she finished all of that, she had to get ready for school. But Brenda didn't give her enough time. Lily arrived late to class, disheveled, exhausted, with red eyes from crying silently. Her teachers started too. noticed something strange. The girl who had once been bright, engaged, cheerful, now fell asleep in class. She didn't raise her hand anymore. She didn't smile. Mrs. Johnson, the math teacher, called her aside one day after class. "Lily, is everything all right at home, sweetheart?" Lily looked up. For a second she considered telling the truth, considered screaming, considered asking for help. But then she remembered Brenda's words that very morning. "If you tell." Anyone at that school, anything. "I'll make sure your father thinks you're a liar, and when he goes away on a trip again, things are going to get much, much worse for you." So Lily smiled, that fake smile she had perfected. "Yes, Mrs. Johnson, everything's fine. I'm just a little tired." Mrs. Johnson frowned, but didn't push it, and Lily missed another opportunity to save herself. 2 more months passed. 8 months total since the abuse began, and each day was worse than the last. Brenda now gave her orders that were physically impossible for an 8-year-old. She demanded that she move furniture, carry grocery bags that weighed more than she did, wash the windows of the entire estate, climbing dangerous ladders. One day, Lily fell off a ladder while cleaning a second-story window. She slammed her knee against the marble floor. The pain was so intense that she couldn't help it. She screamed. Brenda appeared. Immediately. But she didn't ask if she was okay, didn't call a doctor. She just said, "Get up, don't be dramatic, and finish cleaning that window, now." Lily got up limping, finished cleaning, with tears streaming down her face, with her knee swollen and bruised. That night when Richard called from Tokyo to talk to her, Lily tried again. "Dad," she said with a broken voice, "I miss you so much. When are you coming home?" "Soon, sweetheart. Just 2." More weeks. 2 weeks is a long time. "I know, my love, but I'm working very hard to give you the best life possible." Lily wanted to say, "I don't want an estate. I don't want expensive clothes. I just want you, and I want you to get me out of this hell." But Brenda was standing behind her, listening to every word. So Lily just said, "I love you, Dad. I love you too, sweetheart." And he hung up. Brenda smiled. "What a lovely conversation. Now go." Finish cleaning the bathrooms, all of them, and if they're not perfect before midnight, you get no dinner. Lily didn't eat dinner that night, or the next, or the next. Brenda started using food as punishment. If Lily didn't finish her chores on time, she didn't eat. If she did them wrong, she didn't eat. If she complained, she didn't eat. In 3 weeks, Lily lost almost 9 pounds. Her clothes hung off her. Her cheeks were sunken. She had deep, dark circles under her eyes. She looked like a ghost of the girl she had been, but no one noticed. Or maybe they did notice, but they didn't do anything about it. Until Mrs. Rodriguez showed up. Mrs. Rodriguez had worked as a housekeeper for 40 years. She'd raised her own 4 kids while cleaning houses for wealthy families. She was a 62-year-old woman with rough hands and a tender heart. And when Brenda hired her to help with the cleaning twice a week, Mrs. Rodriguez had no idea what she was about to discover. Her first day of work was a Tuesday. She arrived at 6 in the morning as Brenda had instructed. When she opened the service door to the kitchen, she saw something that froze her to the bone. Lily was on her knees in front of the refrigerator, cleaning the floor. Her hands were red and cracked. She had tears in her eyes, and she was moving with a slowness that only comes from total exhaustion. "Child," Mrs. Rodriguez said, putting her bag on the table. Lily looked up, startled. I was just... How long have you been awake?" "Since 5. Mrs. Rodriguez looked at the clock. It was barely 6:05. "And what are you doing up so early?" Before Lily could answer, Brenda walked into the kitchen, smiling. "Good morning, Mrs. Rodriguez. I see you've already met Lily. She's so helpful. She always wants to help with the housework. She loves to clean." Mrs. Rodriguez. Looked at Lily, looked at her ravaged hands, looked at her empty eyes, and she knew with every fibre of her being that something was very, very wrong. But it was her first day. She needed the job. So she didn't say anything. Yet. During the next 2 weeks, Mrs. Rodriguez observed, and what she saw enraged her. She saw Brenda yelling at Lily for leaving a drop of water on the floor. She saw Lily working until 11 at night, with her eyes almost closed from exhaustion. She saw Brenda giving her impossible orders and then punishing her when she didn't fulfill them. And she saw Lily's hands getting worse every day. More cuts, more blisters, more blood. Mrs. Rodriguez tried to talk to Lily when Brenda wasn't around. "Child, do your parents know you're working this hard?" Lily shook her head. My mom died, and my dad travels a lot. And your stepmother, does she treat you well? Lily looked at her with eyes full of fear. Please don't say anything. If you say anything, she's going to make it worse. Mrs. Rodriguez felt her heart break. Sweetheart, this isn't right. You're a child. You shouldn't be working like this. Please, Lily begged. Please don't say anything. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded, but she made a decision that very night. She was going to talk to Richard Sterling, to the father, because this abuse had to end. But Brenda was smarter than Mrs. Rodriguez. Thought. The next day, when Mrs. Rodriguez arrived at work, Brenda was waiting for her at the door. Mrs. Rodriguez, I'm sorry to inform you that we won't be needing your services anymore. What? Why? We've decided to handle the cleaning more internally. Here's your payment for the last 2 weeks. Thanks for your time. Brenda Harding handed Rosa an envelope filled with cash. Rosa took it, stunned. But what about Lily? Lily's perfectly fine. She's my... A daughter now, and I know what's best for her. Rosa wanted to say something more. She wanted to scream. She wanted to call the police. But Brenda slammed the door in her face, and Rosa stood there on the porch, the envelope of money clutched in her hands, feeling like she'd just abandoned a little girl who desperately needed help. But Rosa wasn't about to give up. That very afternoon, she looked up Richard Sterling's office number. She called. A secretary told her that Mr. Sterling was in Singapore and wouldn't be back for 2 weeks. Rosa left a message. Please tell him it's urgent. It's about his daughter, Lily. But the message never arrived. The secretary, swamped with hundreds of calls a day, forgot all about it. So Rosa did something different. She wrote a letter by hand on plain white paper and slipped it into an envelope. She didn't sign her name, didn't want Brenda tracing her. She just wrote, Mr. Sterling, ask your... daughter what she does when you travel. Ask who is hurting her hands. Ask why she's losing weight. Ask before it's too late. Someone who cares about Lily. Rosa personally went to Richard's office and handed the envelope to the receptionist. Please, make sure Mr. Sterling gets this. It's urgent. The receptionist nodded and placed the envelope in the important correspondence tray. And when Richard returned from Singapore 2 weeks later, the envelope was waiting. For him, on his desk, he opened it, read the words, and felt a chill run down his spine. Ask your daughter what she does when you travel. That night, Richard came home earlier than usual. He looked for Lily, found her in her room, doing homework. "Hey, sweetheart!" "Dad!" Lily ran to hug him, but Richard noticed something. She was thinner, much thinner. "Lily, have you been eating okay?" "Yes, Dad." Richard took her hands. He saw the calluses, saw the... scars. Some of them were new. "And this, your hands, they've gotten worse." Lily quickly hid them. "It's from the yard. I told you I like planting flowers." But Richard wasn't convinced. For the first time in months, he really looked at his daughter, and what he saw terrified him. Deep circles under her eyes, sunken cheeks, battered hands, a vacant stare. "Lily, tell me the truth. What do you do when I travel?" Lily opened her mouth. The words were... There, the truth was about to come out, but Brenda appeared in the doorway. "Honey, you're home early." What a lovely surprise. "Lily and I were just about to have dinner. Want to join us?" And the opportunity was lost. Lily looked down. "Nothing, Dad. I do my homework and watch TV. Brenda takes good care of me." Richard looked at her for a long moment. He wanted to believe her, because the alternative was too horrific to consider. So he nodded. "Okay." "Sweetheart." And he left. That night, while Lily was washing the dinner dishes, Brenda came up behind her and whispered in her ear, "Very good, girl, very good. But the next time your father asks you anything, don't even think about telling him the truth, because if you do, I'll make sure you never see him again. Understood?" Lily nodded, tears falling into the soapy water in the sink. How many children are suffering right now as you listen to this? How many are being... abused in silence? How many are begging with their eyes, but nobody's looking? If this story is making you angry, it's because you know it's real, because you know it's happening at this very moment, in some house, in some city, to some child who has no voice. 2 weeks later, something happened that finally caused Brenda's world to start crumbling. Lily was in gym class. It was so hot that day, and she hadn't had breakfast. Brenda had punished her that morning for not. Cleaning the bathroom fast enough. No breakfast, no water. The kids were running laps around the court. Lily was running with them. but every step was agony. Her legs were shaking and her vision was blurring. And then everything went black. She collapsed in the middle of the court. The gym teacher ran to her. The other kids screamed. They called the school nurse. They called an ambulance. And they called Richard. Richard was in a meeting when he got the call. Mr. Sterling, your daughter collapsed at school. She's at the hospital. Come immediately. Richard dropped everything, ran out of the office, speeded to the hospital. And when he arrived, he found Lily in an emergency room bed, hooked up to an IV drip. What happened? Richard asked the doctor. The doctor, a man in his 50s with glasses, looked at Richard with a serious expression. Your daughter is severely dehydrated and malnourished. When was the last time she... Ate? I don't know. She had breakfast this morning, I guess. Mr. Sterling, your daughter hasn't eaten in at least 24 hours. Her blood sugar level is dangerously low. And that's not all. The doctor took Lily's hands and held them up for Richard to see. These injuries aren't from gardening, Mr. Sterling. They're from repetitive manual labor, scrubbing, cleaning, carrying heavy objects. Has your daughter been doing housework? Richard felt. The floor shift beneath his feet. What? No, she doesn't. I need you to be honest with me, sir. Is there any possibility that your daughter is being abused in your home? And at that moment, everything clicked into place in Richard's mind. The injured hands, the weight loss, the dark circles, the silent plea in her eyes every time he left on a trip. The anonymous letter. Ask your daughter what she does when you travel. Oh, God, Richard whispered. Oh. God, no. Lily started to wake up. She opened her eyes slowly, saw her father, saw the doctor, and started to cry. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to faint. Brenda's gonna be so mad. Please don't tell her. Please. Richard felt something inside him shatter into 1,000 pieces. Lily, he said, his voice trembling, look at me. Brenda's not gonna be mad, because Brenda's never gonna come near you again. But I need you to tell me the... truth, the whole truth. What has she been doing to you? And finally, after 8 months of silence, Lily spoke. She told him everything. The endless chores, the punishments, the hunger, the insults, the threats, every brutal detail of her private hell, The doctor documented everything, took pictures of Lily's hands, noted the malnutrition, called a social worker. And Richard, sitting beside his daughter's bed, wept. He wept for all the months he failed to. Protect her, for all the signs he ignored, for bringing a monster into their home and handing her his daughter. "I'm so sorry," he whispered, hugging her gently. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. This should never have happened. Never. But I swear to you, on your mother's memory, I'm going to fix this. I'm going to protect you. And Brenda will pay for every tear she made you shed." Lily clung to him. "You're not going to send me away. Never. You're staying with me. Always." The social. Worker arrived. She spoke with Lily. She spoke with Richard, and at the end of the conversation, she made something very clear. "Mr. Sterling, this is child abuse. Your wife could face criminal charges. We're going to investigate. And in the meantime, I suggest your daughter doesn't return to that house until this is resolved." Richard nodded. "She won't be returning. Not while Brenda's there." That same afternoon, Richard made a decision. He was going to return home 3 days earlier. Than his next scheduled business trip, without warning Brenda, without giving her time to prepare another one of her perfect performances. He was going to discover exactly what was happening when he wasn't there. And then he was going to destroy Brenda with the same cruelty with which she had destroyed his daughter. If stories like this outrage you as much as they outrage us, consider supporting this channel with a super thanks. Every contribution allows us to continue investigating. And sharing truths that need to be told. Lily spent 2 nights in the hospital. She needed to regain weight, rehydrate, and the doctor wanted to make sure there was no permanent damage. During those 48 hours, Richard didn't leave her side. He slept in an uncomfortable chair next to her bed. He held her hand, and every time Lily woke up scared, thinking Brenda was there, Richard whispered, "You're safe. I'm here. No one is going to hurt you ever again." Brenda called the hospital repeatedly, faking concern, faking being the loving stepmother. "How's my little girl? I want to see her. Please, tell her I love her." Richard hung up on her, every single time. On the 3rd day, Lily was discharged from the hospital. The doctor handed Richard a comprehensive report. Pages and pages documenting the abuse, the photos of her hands, The blood tests showing severe malnutrition. Everything. "Keep this safe," the doctor told him. "You're going to need it." Richard nodded. He knew exactly what he was going to need it for. He took Lily to a hotel, not to the estate. Not yet. He booked the largest suite. He ordered room service. And for the first time in 8 months, Lily ate without fear, without someone watching her, without being punished for asking for more. She ate pasta, bread, dessert. And when she finished, she looked at her father with tear-filled eyes. "Can I eat like this? Always?" Richard felt his heart break all over again. "Yes, sweetheart, always. You're never going to go hungry again, I promise you." That night, while Lily slept in the hotel's king-size bed, hugging a teddy bear that Richard had bought her, he sat on the balcony and called his lawyer. "I want a divorce, immediately, and I want Brenda out of my house before the end of the week." His lawyer, an experienced man named Jack Morrison, listened to everything: the abuse, the evidence, the medical report. "Richard, this isn't just a divorce." "This is a criminal case. Brenda could go to prison." "Good," Richard said in a voice so cold that even he was surprised. "That's exactly what I want." "I'm going to need you to do something," Jack continued. "I need more evidence. The medical report is solid, but if you can get visual evidence, recordings, something that shows the abuse in action, the case will be irrefutable." Richard thought about it. And then he remembered something. The security cameras. The estate had cameras in almost every hallway. He never checked them. They were there for security, connected to a cloud server that stored the recordings for 6 months. "The cameras," Richard whispered. "I have security cameras." "Do the recordings still exist?" "Yes, they're saved automatically for 6 months. Then check them, all of them. And if you find what I think you're going to find, call me immediately." Richard hung up. He opened his laptop. He accessed the estate's security system remotely. And he started reviewing the recordings. What he saw destroyed him. There were hours and hours of footage. Brenda dragging Lily down the hallway, pushing her, yelling at her so close to her face that the girl recoiled in fear. Lily carrying buckets of water that were too heavy for her, tripping, falling. And Brenda standing there, watching with her arms crossed, without helping her. One recording made him cry. It was 3 in the morning. Lily was coming out of her room, dragging her. feet with swollen eyes. She was going to the kitchen, and she spent the next 2 hours cleaning alone, in the dark, crying silently. "Oh my God," Richard whispered. "Oh my God, what have I done to my daughter?" He saved all the recordings. He downloaded them. He organized them by date, and he sent them to Jack that same night. Jack reviewed them, and the next day he called Richard with a voice full of contained fury. "Richard, with this, Brenda is going to prison without a doubt." "I'm going to file criminal charges today, and I'm going to make sure she can never get near Lily or any other child." "Thank you," Richard said. "Thank you." But there was something else that Richard needed to do. He needed to see with his own eyes what Brenda was doing to Lily, not on a recording, in real time. So he did something risky. He told Brenda that he had to travel to London for 2 weeks, that it was urgent, that he couldn't take Lily because she was recovering from her. Fainting spell. Brenda agreed immediately. "Of course, my love, I'll take care of her. Don't you worry." But Richard wasn't going to travel to London. He was going to return home. 3 days later, without warning, and this time he was going to see the truth with his own eyes. Lily didn't want to return. When Richard told her that she had to go back to the estate for a few days, she clung to him, terrified. "No, Daddy, please. I don't want to go back. She's going to hurt me. Listen." "To me," Richard said, kneeling in front of her, "I know you're scared, but I need you to be brave just a little bit longer, just 3 days, and I promise you, I swear to you on your mum's memory, that after that, Brenda is never going to touch you again. Do you trust me?" Lily looked at him with those enormous eyes full of tears, and she nodded. "I trust you, Daddy. And one more thing, if she hurts you, if she does anything that scares you, I want you to call this number, Richard." Gave her a small cell phone. "It goes straight to me. I'll be listening always, understand?" Lily nodded again. And so, with a shattered heart, Richard took his daughter back to hell, just for 3 days, to get the final, undeniable evidence that would destroy Brenda Harding forever. The first 2 days were brutal. Richard called Lily every night. She told him she was okay, but he could hear the fear in her voice. He could hear the tears she was holding back. And every night, Richard reviewed the live security camera footage. He saw Brenda screaming. He saw Lily working until midnight. And each time he did, the fury in his chest grew stronger and stronger. On the third day, Richard took a flight back home. He arrived in the city around 8 p.m. He drove straight to the estate, but he didn't go through the front door. He stayed outside, waiting, watching. It was 11 p.m. when he finally decided to go inside. The night air was cold against his skin. Richard could hear his own breathing, fast, shallow. His heart was beating so hard, he felt like it was going to explode. He used his key. The sound of the metal turning in the lock seemed amplified in the silence of the night. He opened the front door carefully, inch by inch, without making a sound. The house was silent. A heavy, unnatural silence, as if the estate itself was holding its breath. All the lights were off, except one, the light in the kitchen, a bright yellow rectangle. At the end of the hallway, like an open wound in the darkness, Richard walked toward it. Slowly, each step measured. His dress shoes on the marble produced the faintest sound, almost imperceptible. But each click made him stop, wait, make sure no one had heard him. The hallway had never seemed so long, 30 feet that felt like miles. And then, when he was 10 feet from the kitchen, he heard it. Voices. The first voice he heard was Brenda's, but it wasn't the sweet, kind voice she used with him. It was a voice Richard had never heard before, cold, full of poison, full of utter contempt. Pathetic. Look at this mess. You've been cleaning the same floor for 3 hours, and it still doesn't shine. Your mother would be ashamed to see you like this, so useless, so clumsy. Richard felt the blood run cold in his veins, and then he heard the second voice, the voice that shattered him completely. It was Lily, his little girl, but she didn't sound like an 8-year-old. She sounded like someone much older, someone who had lived too much pain, too much suffering. Stepmother, I can't anymore. My hands hurt so much. Please, let me rest. Just a little. Please. Lily's voice was breaking. She was crying, begging. And Brenda's response was even worse. Shut up, you little brat. I don't care if your hands hurt. I don't care if you're tired. Finish cleaning this floor perfectly, without a single speck of dirt, or I swear you'll sleep outside. In the cold all night. Do you understand me? And tomorrow, no food for you, nothing. You're already fat enough anyway. Richard heard a sound he would never forget. The sound of a slap, flesh against flesh, and then a choked sob from Lily. Something inside Richard broke in that moment. All the doubts he had had, All the times he had wanted to believe Brenda's lies. It all evaporated. His daughter was being tortured in his own house, while he had been thousands of miles away, in business meetings that now seemed completely insignificant. Richard's hands were shaking as he took out his phone. He unlocked it with his thumb. He opened the voice recorder. He pressed the red record button because he needed evidence. He needed this documented so that Brenda could never lie, never manipulate, never escape what she had done. He put the phone in his jacket pocket, with the recorder still active. He took a deep breath, once, twice, trying to control the fury that threatened to consume him completely. And then he opened the kitchen door. What he saw was an image that would be etched in his mind forever. An image that would haunt him in dreams and nightmares for the rest of his life. The kitchen was lit with that cold, white light of the LED spotlights. Everything gleamed. The wood cabinets, the black granite countertops, the stainless steel appliances. It was a perfect kitchen, straight out of a magazine. Immaculate, except for the floor. The white marble floor was wet, soaked with water and soap, and in the center of that floor, on her knees, was Lily, his little 8-year-old daughter, barefoot, her small feet against the cold marble, her toes wrinkled from hours of contact with the water. She was wearing an old nightgown. Richard recognized that nightgown. It had belonged to Eleanor, to her mother. Brenda had given it to Lily, saying it was a special keepsake. But now, Richard understood the truth. It wasn't a keepsake. It was a way to degrade her, to force her to wear old, worn-out clothes, while Brenda wore designer dresses. The nightgown was soaked, clinging to Lily's small, thin body, too thin. Richard could see her ribs through the wet fabric. He could see how much weight she had lost, 10 to 12 pounds lost from a body that was already small. Lily's hair, that shiny, black hair that Eleanor used to comb so carefully, was loose, tangled, stuck to her face with sweat and tears, and her hands. God. Her hands. Lily was holding a hard, bristled brush, the kind of brush that's used to clean outdoor floors, to remove tough stains from concrete, not a brush for a little girl, not a brush for delicate hands. Lily's hands were red, not just red. They were raw. The skin on her palms was completely shredded, blisters burst, open cuts, blood mixing with the soapy water. The floor around her was stained, not with dirt, with blood, red droplets that diluted in the water, creating pink swirls. Lily was scrubbing, back and forth with mechanical movements, like a robot, as if her body had given up, but her hands kept moving out of pure inertia. And the tears. The tears fell silently down her cheeks, falling onto the floor she had just cleaned, staining it again, creating the endless cycle of cleaning that would never end while Brenda was there. Richard looked at Brenda, and for the first time, he saw his wife exactly as she was. A monster. Brenda was standing. 3 feet from Lily, standing, comfortable. With her arms crossed over her chest, she was wearing an expensive silk robe, designer slippers, her makeup perfect, her hair styled, like she was about to step out for dinner at a fancy restaurant. Not like someone who had just beaten a little girl, but what struck Richard the most was her expression. There was no compassion on that face, no guilt. There was nothing human, just contempt, disgust, almost amusement, like she was enjoying Lily's suffering, as if this was entertainment for her. In her hand she held a slipper, a hard rubber slipper. The sole had red stains on it. Blood. From hitting Lily's hands when she didn't clean fast enough. Time seemed to stop. Richard saw it all in slow motion, every detail, every horror. When Richard opened the door, the sound made them both turn. Lily's expression changed instantly. The fear transformed into relief. Her eyes, those huge, dark eyes that looked so much like Elena's, filled with new tears. But these weren't tears of pain. They were tears of hope. "Dad," she whispered, and that single word contained everything. 8 months of suffering, 8 months of silent pleas, 8 months of praying for him to come, to save her. Brenda's expression was completely different. For a fraction of a second, barely half a second, Richard saw pure panic in her face. Her eyes widened, her mouth. Formed an O of surprise. The slipper almost fell from her hand, but Brenda was a consummate actress. She had perfected the art of deception for months, and in less than the blink of an eye, her face changed again. She smiled, that charming smile that Richard had seen 1,000 times, that smile that had made him fall in love, that had convinced him to marry her, that had kept him blind for so long. "Richard," she said in a sweet voice, hiding the slipper behind her. Honey, I wasn't expecting you so early. What a lovely surprise." "Shut up." Richard's voice was so low, so dangerous, that Brenda took a step back. Richard walked toward Lily. He knelt in front of her. He took her small hands carefully. They were torn, worse than before, actively bleeding. "Sweetheart," Richard whispered, and his voice broke. "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." Lily sobbed. "Daddy, it hurts." "I know, sweetheart, I know, but—" "It's over now. I promise you it's over." Richard stood up. He scooped Lily up in his arms. The little girl clung to him as if he were the only solid thing in a world that was crumbling. And then Richard looked at Brenda Harding, the woman he had sworn to love at the altar, the woman who had tortured his daughter for 8 months, the woman who had turned his home into a hell. "Richard, I can explain." "No," Richard cut her off. "You're not going to explain." "Anything. You're going to listen." Richard took out his phone. He pressed play on the recording he had just made. Brenda's voice filled the kitchen. "Shut up, you worthless brat. Finish cleaning this floor, or you'll be sleeping outside in the cold." "I have 8 months of recordings from the security cameras," Richard continued. "I have the medical report from the hospital. I have photos of Lily's hands. I have witnesses. I have everything, Brenda. Everything." Brenda's face paled. "And first thing tomorrow morning, my lawyer's going to file criminal charges against you. Child abuse, forced child labor, psychological abuse. You're going to prison, Brenda. And when you get out, you're going to have nothing. No money, no reputation, no future, nothing." Brenda tried to cry. Those fake tears that had always worked before. "Please, Richard. I love you. We can fix this." "You never loved me," Richard said with absolute coldness. "You only loved my money, and now you've lost both. You have 10 minutes to pack the essentials and get out of my house. If you don't, I'm calling the police right now. And believe me, they'll be happy to arrest you based on what I have." Brenda looked at Lily. There was pure hatred in her eyes, but the little girl was protected in her father's arms. Brenda left the kitchen without saying another word. Richard carried Lily to the bathroom. He cleaned her hands with warm water. He put bandages on them. He gave her ibuprofen for the pain, and all the while he whispered words of comfort. "It's over now. It's over, sweetheart. Nobody's going to hurt you ever again." 10 minutes later, Richard heard the front door slam shut. Brenda was gone. and for the first time in 8 months, Lily was safe in her own home. That night, Richard tucked Lily into her bed. He put her in her favorite pajamas. He gave her her teddy bear, and he sat in a chair beside her bed. "Daddy," Lily said in a weak voice, "is she really gone?" "Yes, sweetheart, she's gone, and she's never coming back." "Are you sure?" "Completely sure." Lily closed her eyes, and for the first time in 8 months, she fell asleep without fear, without nightmares, knowing that her father was there, protecting her. Richard watched her sleep, and he made a decision that would change everything. He was going. To stop working 14 hours a day, he was going to stop traveling 3 weeks a month. He was going to sell the tech empire if necessary, because nothing, absolutely nothing, was more important than his daughter. Money can't buy happiness. The next day, Richard's lawyer, Javier, filed the criminal charges against Brenda Harding. The police arrested her at the hotel where she was staying. She tried to resist. She tried to lie, but the evidence was irrefutable. The recordings from the cameras, the medical report, the photos, Lily's testimony, it all pointed to the same thing. Brenda Harding had systematically abused an 8-year-old girl for 8 months. The case moved quickly through the legal system. The prosecutors wanted to make an example of her. The media covered the story. Millionaire stepmother accused of enslaving stepdaughter. Brenda tried to get a plea bargain. She tried to negotiate, but Richard refused. I want her to go to trial. I want the world to know exactly what kind of monster she is. And that was exactly what happened. The trial lasted 3 weeks. The prosecutor presented the recordings, the photos, the medical report. They called Rosa as a witness. They called the doctor. They called Lily's teacher. And they called Lily. Richard didn't want his daughter to testify. He didn't want her to relive the trauma. But the prosecutor explained to him that Lily's testimony was crucial. It's her story, and it deserves to be heard. So Lily took the stand. At 8 years old, small and fragile, but incredibly brave. They asked her what had happened, and she told them everything, in a trembling but clear voice. She told them about the chores, the punishments, the hunger, the insults, the threats. The jury listened with expressions of absolute horror. Some of the women were openly crying. And Brenda. Harding, sitting at the defense table, tried to look remorseful, but everyone could see the truth behind her eyes. She felt no regret, just pure anger at being caught. When Lily finished testifying, the judge said something to her she'd never forget. "You are a very brave young girl, Lily, and I want you to know that what happened to you was not your fault. It was never your fault." Lily nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for only 4 hours. Guilty on all charges: child abuse, forced child labor, psychological abuse, food deprivation, bodily harm. The judge sentenced Brenda to 3 years in prison, a permanent restraining order against Lily and Richard, loss of all assets acquired during the marriage, no alimony, no access to anything. As the officers led Brenda away in handcuffs, she finally showed her true colors. She screamed, she insulted, she cursed. "Richard," she cursed Lily, "that girl is a liar! You're all going to regret this! I was just trying to discipline her!" But no one believed her, because the evidence did not lie. And so, Brenda Harding, the woman who had tried to destroy an innocent child, was taken to prison. Meanwhile, the real healing was just beginning. If you have children, you'll understand why this can't be ignored. You'll understand why every detail of this story matters. Because at this very moment, as you're reading this, there's a child somewhere in the world who's going through the same thing as Lily, and they need someone to see them, someone to act, someone to save them. If this didn't outrage you, you didn't understand the gravity of what you just heard, because this isn't just a story. It's the reality for millions of children who suffer in silence, children who need us to pay attention, to ask questions, to not ignore the signs. After the trial, Richard made radical decisions. He sold the company. Well, not completely. He hired a CEO to run it and stayed on as the majority shareholder. But he no longer worked 14 hours a day. He no longer traveled 3 weeks a month. He worked from home, 4 hours a day. The rest of the time was for Lily. Lily began intensive therapy, twice a week, with a child trauma specialist named Dr. Gabriela Torres. The first few months were difficult. Lily had nightmares. Almost every night, she dreamed that Brenda was coming back, that she was forcing her to clean again, that she was punishing her. Every time she woke up screaming, Richard was there. He hugged her. He reminded her that she was safe, that Brenda was in prison, that she would never touch her again. Slowly, the nightmares became less frequent. Lily was also afraid to do normal household chores. If Richard asked her to take her plate to the sink after dinner, Lily would. Panic. Did I do something wrong? Do I have to clean everything? Please, Dad, I'll do it perfectly. Don't punish me. It broke Richard's heart every time. No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. And it's not a punishment. It's just helping a little bit, but if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's okay. Over time, with therapy, Lily began to understand the difference between normally helping around the house and being abused. Dr. Torres. Worked with her on recognizing emotions, on rebuilding her self-esteem, on understanding that nothing that happened was her fault. And after 6 months of therapy, Lily began to heal for real. She started smiling again. Not those fake smiles she had perfected during the abuse. Real smiles, full of light. She started playing with other kids again. Before she was afraid to make friends, because Brenda wouldn't let her invite anyone over. But now she was hosting. Sleepovers, going to birthday parties. She was a normal kid again. She went back to being bright in school. Her grades improved. She participated in class. She raised her hand, she asked questions, and she started trusting her father again. At first, every time Richard left the house, Lily would panic. "Where are you going? When are you coming back? Are you going to leave me alone?" But Richard never left her alone. If he had to go out, Rose stayed with her. Rose. The housekeeper who had tried to save her, the 62-year-old woman with a heart of gold. Richard had looked her up after the trial. He had offered her her job back, but not as a housekeeper, as the head of the household, with a salary triple what Brenda had been paying her. "And there's something else I want to ask you," Richard had said. "I want you to take care of Lily, as if she were your own granddaughter. Can you do that?" Rose had tears in her eyes when she... accepted. And from that day on, Rose became one of the most important people in Lily's life. Lily called her Grandma Rose, and Rose treated her with a fierce love. She took her to the park. She taught her how to cook traditional recipes. She told her stories of when her own children were little, and most importantly, Rose watched over her. If she noticed that Lily was sad, she talked to her. If she had nightmares, she comforted her. If she needed anything, she was. There, a year after the rescue, Lily had her 9th birthday. Richard threw a huge party. They invited all her friends from school. There was a bouncy castle, a clown, a table full of cake and candy. Lily wore a pink dress. She had a birthday crown. And when she blew out the candles, she made a wish. Afterward, when all the guests had left, Richard asked her, "What did you wish for?" Lily smiled. "I wish that Mom could see us now, so she knows that I'm okay. That..." "We're happy." Richard hugged her. "I'm sure she's watching us, and I'm sure she's very proud of you." Lily's hands healed. The scars remained. They were always going to be there. Physical reminders of what she had survived, but they didn't hurt anymore. And Dr. Torres helped her see them in a different way. "Those scars aren't signs of weakness," she said. "They're signs of strength. Proof that you survived. Proof that you're stronger than you thought." Lily started. Seeing them that way, like battle scars, like proof that she had survived hell and come out on the other side. 2 years after the rescue, Lily was 10 years old, and she was a completely different child than the one Richard had found crying in the kitchen that night. She was the best student in her class, not because she felt obligated, but because she genuinely loved learning. She had a solid group of friends, girls who made her laugh, who she played with, who she... shared secrets with. She had hobbies. She took piano lessons. She was on the school soccer team. She drew in her free time. And she had her father, present, every day, taking her to school, helping her with homework, going to her soccer games, applauding at her piano recitals. He wasn't the absent father working 14-hour days anymore. He was the father Lily had always needed. As for Brenda Harding, she served her 3-year sentence. When she got out of... prison, she tried to rebuild her life, but it was impossible. Her reputation was destroyed. When people Googled her name, the first thing that popped up was, "Woman convicted of abusing 8-year-old stepdaughter." She couldn't get a job. No family wanted to hire her. No company wanted to associate with her. She tried to contact Richard. She sent him letters begging for money, forgiveness, A second chance. Richard never responded, not even once. Brenda Harding. Lost everything, just as she deserved, just as she had made Lily lose her childhood. And as for where they are now, 3 years after that night in the kitchen, Lily is 11 years old. She's in 6th grade. She's vice president of the student council. She plays soccer as a forward. She plays piano at an intermediate level. She has a 3.8 GPA. But more important than all of that, she's happy. She laughs, she plays, she dreams, she makes plans for the future. She wants to be a doctor when she grows up. Like the doctor who helped me at the hospital, she says. She still goes to therapy, but now only once a month. Dr. Evans says she's one of the most resilient children she's ever met. What happened to Lily was horrible, Dr. Evans told Richard in a session. But the way you handled the recovery was perfect. You gave her time, space, love, security, and that made all the difference. Richard works from home. Now, he runs his tech empire remotely, and he's a shareholder in 3 other startups, but his work never interferes with Lily. Every day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he's waiting for her outside of school. It doesn't matter what meeting he has. It doesn't matter what important call is scheduled. At 3, he's there, and Lily runs to him with a huge smile. "Dad, we had a science test today and I think I got an A." It's the little things, the everyday. Moments, the ones Richard almost lost, the ones he now values more than anything. Rosa continues to work with them, but now she's more family than a housekeeper. Lily calls her grandma, and Rosa treats Lily like she's her own granddaughter. When Lily has piano recitals, Rosa is in the front row cheering. When she has soccer games, Rosa brings an air horn and shouts her name. When she has a bad day, Rosa makes her hot chocolate and tells her stories. It's the family. Lily deserves the family she almost lost, the family Richard rebuilt from the ashes of his worst mistake. And the lesson Richard learned, the one he shares with other parents whenever he can, is simple but devastating. Being present is worth more than any gift, any estate, any bank account. Children don't need millionaire parents. They need parents who are there, who see when something is wrong, who listen when they ask for help, who protect them when they're in Danger. Richard almost lost his daughter because he chose his career over her, because he believed that giving her money was enough, because he trusted the wrong person. But he learned, and he changed, and he saved Lily just in time. Not all children are that lucky. Right now, as you're listening to this, there's a child being abused, in silence, in some house, in some city, by someone who's supposed to be taking care of them. That child is begging with their eyes. They're changing their behavior. They're losing weight. They're showing signs, but no one is looking. Or worse, people are looking, but they aren't acting. If you know a child who has changed their behavior, who has stopped smiling, who seems tired, scared, withdrawn, pay attention, ask questions, investigate, because that change might be a silent cry for help. You can be the difference between suffering and salvation. You can be the Richard who arrives in time. Don't be the Richard who almost arrived too late, because some children don't get a second chance, and they deserve someone to fight for them, like Lily deserved, like all children deserve, always.